podcast. On today's episode of the podcast, we've got a slightly shorter episode today. It's just me and you talking today about photography. I'm going to be going through my photography journey today. I'm going to be going through all the different styles of photography I've done, why I do it, what I love about it. Also going to throw in some music into this episode as well. Let me know if you like the tunes that we're putting into today's episode to really set a very calm and smooth tone for today, for your Thursday evening if you're listening on the day of uploading. If you're listening in the future, also, hello. Thank you for coming back and listening to this episode. So, my film photography, or photography in general, I can remember my first cameras. I started off, ironically, with a Logitech webcam, which we used cable ties to put through some Lego pieces, and I would do Lego animation as an 8-year-old. So it is still technically photography, even though it was more animation. I would be doing animations all summer long when I wasn't at school, from primary school and early secondary school age as well. The webcam was terrible. It connected up to a bit of editing software that I had on my really old laptop at the time, but it worked for me. All the animations went up on YouTube, and it was my first form of photography. I loved storytelling from a young age and always wanted to get that. And as a kid, I never even really questioned it. I just did it because that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't really push it out too much. I just shared it on YouTube and saw what happened. My first animation ended up leading to the creation of a society or club within the primary school system where there was Lego animations done. And I remember for our leaving assembly, we had to do a big performance, and we did The Great Escape, and we all made like Lego CCTV style footage of Lego characters escaping the school, I think it was, or wherever they were trying to go from to get to secondary school. And I continued it a bit onto secondary school, but this is where I discovered Instagram, my first time using Instagram, because I'd been recommended it by friends, and I just picked up my first DSLR. It was a Canon 1100D, if I'm not mistaken. And my first real use of that was because I was always sort of the family photographer to start with, the one taking the pictures growing up of holidays and events, so that we always had the memories to cherish and share. That was my job, my responsibility, and I did enjoy taking all the family photos and places we used to go, south of France, whether we'd staycations, also when I would go on school trips, taking them with my first iPhone, but mainly trying to use the DSLR where I could. But the first time I properly got the best use out of my DSLR was when I went to the Darling Buds of May Classic Car Show back in sort of 2013, 2014. It was my first real time where I was like, okay, I'm really enjoying this photography stuff. I took photos of all the cars, and if you follow my Instagram, Max Barrett Pictures, the link will be in the description. I've still got all my old photography from when I first started, and the first posts on that page are from car shows. And if you really want to see my photography journey, my Instagram is the best place to be, because it covers pretty much most of, not all, but most of what I'm going to be discussing in this episode. Started off with that car show. We had a 1973 Westphalia VW camper van we used to take on holiday all over the place as a family. Absolutely loved that thing. Definitely going to get another camper van later in life, because they're just a joy to go around in with friends or family. And we'd go to car shows, people would look at our van, we'd go and look at other cars. I would take pictures of all of the cars there, share them, edit them. I was just sort of getting used to the idea of editing photos as well, just using the Instagram filters to start with. And I would be messing around with all the settings. If you see the early photos, you can really tell I like to mess around with some of them. And that was my first pride and joy. I also then started taking photos of my sister was a keen, still is a keen actress, so any chance to get in front of the camera she enjoyed, so I did a bit of portrait stuff at those events too. And then me and her used to go on walks quite a lot together when we used to live out in the countryside. We now live more in the city, and we still sometimes do, but more also when we were in the countryside, we used to take loads of photos together along beautiful walks. We had the North Downs, Pilgrim's Way, all that beautiful, beautiful scenery that Kent has to offer. And that was really my earliest and first forms of photography. So we started off with Lego, being the family photographer, and then I just started to get into my first sort of stuff with DSLRs. And then I don't even really know why I enjoyed the photography so much. Just the idea of sharing moments in time, I think at that point. I do love to go back and look at the memories as well. I don't just sit on the photos. I keep them, I check them. I want to start putting photos up in my space as well, because at the moment I'm converting my room to really be oriented around my kit, and I want to put up some of my old photos to enhance that, show my journey. But that is the beginning. Now we're going to move into some music from Techno Acts. This is Ascend to the Station, a smooth, silky 80s synthwave theme for you today. Enjoy. What a lovely song. And you can find all the links to the music also in the description of this video as well. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday. Lovely to have your company. Next style of photography I wanted to move into. So, I was taking photos at the Darling Buds and May car shows. I was also then taking those same style of photos when I was going travelling, and I posted a lot of travel photos, holidays I'd have with friends, holidays with family, and just in and around the city I live in. I loved plants. I had a huge fascination with plants, which has re-emerged, and I'll touch on later. But when I finally upgraded to a Canon 60D, I got extension tubes, a 50mm prime lens, 28mm prime lens, and a 100 to 200mm zoom lens. And that's when things really, really did start to change for me, because I was able to get much more vibrant, different shots than I was before on the 1100D with just a stock lens. And I moved into Lego photography and proper travel photography. So the softness of the 50mm prime lens, it had a 1.8 aperture. It was really cinematic in how it shot things. I'd done promotional videos on this camera, and it was beautiful stuff. And my photography, a lot of visuals directed to plants, nature, or that there's a gardener near us who does incredible work on some of the plants in and around the area, and I just have to take photos of them during the summer. And I have just a massive fascination with gardens, places near the water. And I also, and it's going to seem a little bit more off topic, but I went back to my animation in a way. So the animations I used to do was all Lego. Now I've just moved on to straight Lego photography. Just Lego photography. I've focused on taking pictures, setting up nice frames, Lego Star Wars, Lego Movie, mainly minifigures, occasionally sets as well, but with the extension tubes it meant I could finally, for the first time, get close in on minifigures, get the exact framing that I wanted, and using that 50mm lens, it just created a beautiful setting. I took photos like that for a couple of years, made some amazing friends. I've sort of dropped off on the Lego photography front for a bit, but it was amazing. I spoke to a lovely woman on Instagram who wanted to buy one of my photos for her son, which was incredible. I'm looking to start selling some photos as well, but as a one-off thing, that was a beautiful thing to have, and really made my day that someone would come back and be so happy as to want to include my work with their life. That was, from what I remember, a Star Wars photo. And we had a little studio that I set up. My dad purchased a Folio 360 Zenfolio product, and I would use it and take it whenever he wasn't using it for his business work, and take some photos of Lego within that studio. I used to do custom builds, so I'd put the custom builds I'd do in a studio and do that. I have a couple of videos up on one of my other YouTube channels, which I don't post to too much anymore, but that shows examples of some of my custom Lego creations. That's more film though than photography, obviously. Also, favourite photographers in and around this point at Instagram. I'm going to link more of them in the description for sure. I have tons. The people I follow are stunning. I have multiple Instagrams, but I follow some really quality photographers, and I would recommend all the links that I put down in the description, and there's going to be so many more that I've missed or haven't mentioned. Comment some of your favourite photographers as well. I'd love to hear who you guys follow, what makes you tick, who you are inspired by in the Instagram world. I'm going to mention an account that does features first, which is We The Photos. They post so many really sort of minimalist, calm photos, a lot of backgrounds with a foreground subject out of focus, minimalist, really pastel colours. Really love their work, and I would highly recommend them because they share lots of photographers, so that's a way for you to discover new photographers. Also, Peter Shoots Bricks. He's one of my favourite Lego photographers. I've known Pete on Instagram for a little while. He's done great stuff. He's had like narrative arcs with his photos, so he tends to put stories to them as well. Lego Star Wars, usually. He puts a lot of effort into the edits for his photos. They feel very cinematic. And then Cesar Cano. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. I don't really want to spoil what his work is, but it's a sci-fi, graphic design, photography, astronaut, lights and colours, just masterclass. His work is some of my favourite out there. I wish I could do what he does. It's not traditional in any sense, but absolutely golden. And I'm going to mention so many more names down in the description. And also, please do comment your favourite photographers. I'd love to interact and start to follow some of you guys on social media as well, so you can interact with me, maybe say, hey, I came from this episode of the My Generation podcast, and I can hear from you then. And before I get into some of my later photography projects, we're going to move into another 80s synth song. So this is Dream Hour, Who Are You Tonight? This is Dream Hour, Who Are You Tonight?
Going now.
Amazing stuff. So now we're going to move on to my last couple of points relating to my more modern photography that I've been doing. So through inspiration from the people around me, I've got into film photography for the first time. Most of my photography up until now has been all digital, but now I'm moving into more using 35mm film. And I'm using a CNC Motomarine 35. That's my film camera at the moment. I've taken it to underwater a couple times. It's worked okay. No incredible photos, but I mainly use it on land because it still just works like a regular film camera, quite a wide lens. You can't actually control focus through the viewfinder. You have to just sort of judge it based on distance, which is great. The aperture range is tiny. It has a inbuilt flash. The ISO is fixed obviously because it's film, but you hyper restricted. But what's great about film, even with the hyper restriction of it, is it encourages you to be more creative. Every photo is worth more, so you have to take much more time planning to make sure that photo is perfect before you press go, because you want the photo to look good. And it costs real money for every single photo because it's getting sent off and developed and you're using your film. And it's a real skill to be able to gauge that without having dials or any buttons or anything automatic to help you. And I always get my film photos sent off and developed, and I've put together a sort of photo album of the last sort of 5 or 6 months at this point, aiming to now start a second album. There's something lovely about having the photos physically in your hand, isn't there? That I'm only just discovering for the first time, because all my photos have been digital up until the last sort of couple months, and it's great. I love seeing them all together. For each page of the photo album, I like to sort of colour organise them. So all my evening photos that are quite dark, blacks, dark blues, purples, they're all on one page. Then if I've got photos of plants, they're on another, sort of greens. If I've got lots of photos of water, they're all in one space, and then one for family as well. So it's all very organised, and I like how that all looks. And I want to start putting them up and making them look nice. There's something I love about presenting moments that weren't at the same time together. So maybe a holiday trip where I went up north to Yorkshire, which I mentioned on the podcast. You can check out episode 16 for that one. I took a lot of film photos up there, actually. And maybe linking that with a photo of the river down here where we live in Kent. And the way those connect, it's something magical to me. And I struggle to describe that, but that's something that I do, and I do enjoy. And now I'm almost getting a little bit obsessed in terms of the nature, plants, water, with the textures of it. If you go to, as of the time of recording of this podcast, because this podcast is being recorded mid-October, my Instagram, and hopefully will still be at the point where you're listening to this, is black and white photos that are of plants, trees, water, and with a focus just on the texture of them, the differences, the nuances of each, of different leaves, different bushes, water. I just am fascinated this time. My Lego photography was you focused on one specific part of the image. This is about texture that goes across the whole image, and it almost feels like a completely different form of photography because there's not a subject, it's just a wash of a feeling and emotion. And I like taking nature and mixing it in this unique and different way. And that's also where a little bit of an obsession with sort of black and white, old style photos looks. There's something great about grainy, old black and white photos. I don't know what it is. It's just a magical feeling, isn't it? Having photos that are old looking, that you don't get the full picture of, because with black and white sometimes, and the grain, the shadows are high, you can't tell what the image is. And with some of my photos, if I've taken them and they're edited to be black and white or older style, or if that's the way I've done it on the film camera, you were dragged in more to the memory because not all the details there in the picture. So maybe the photo hasn't quite captured it all. So you're encouraged to fill in the blanks with your memories. And if it's not your specific memory, thinking about what could have been happening in this scene. Where was this person, what was happening, and you build a story around the person in this photo or the subject, And I'm sort of obsessed at the moment with sort of the aesthetic of black and white photos. All my Instagrams at the moment are all black and white, all the official ones. So obviously I've still got older posts that have colour and differences, but I still think that you can have vibrant photos that are just done in black and white. But that is pretty much all I have to say as a brief, very brief history of my photography. Again, I know this has been a slightly shorter episode, but it's been nice to just sit back and do an episode, just me and you talking. Over the past couple of weeks, haven't we had some absolutely fascinating guests? You can check them all out on the YouTube channel in the recent posts history. They've just been such a joy. And I just wanted to vary it up by just having one where you get to know me a little bit more as the presenter, one where you get to know what I do as well, because I do spend a lot of time with guests, and these episodes are a little bit different, where you get to learn a slice of me and what makes me tick, and just something a little bit different. But we have tons of episodes with some incredible guests still lined up as we move into a more festive period indeed. So we have Dan Inwood. He's back on the podcast next week, if my schedule serves me correct. It's either him or Devon as well. She's coming up with a very, very personal story. I'm in the process of editing that episode at the moment, and really is eye-opening. She's very honest and very open. And I really do look forward to finally sharing that episode with you. And then moving more into the festive and Christmas period, we've got Joel on the show talking about his blacksmithing. And it's also my birthday in December. So I'm going to be doing a birthday-themed episode. If you've got questions for me, put the questions in the comments below. If there's anything you'd like to know about me, maybe it's to do with the photography, maybe it's to do with something about me or what it's like running this show. Any and all questions are welcomed, and you can leave them in the comment section here, and I will do my best to feature them within the episode, because I'm planning on hopefully making it a longer episode as well, just me and you talking again on my birthday in December. And then we're into Christmas. We in the episode with Joel, we will be revealing who our Christmas special guest is and what we'll be talking about. It's feels so strange talking about that in the middle of October when I'm recording this. But we're going to be ending today's episode with another song. Hope you've enjoyed having music in as well. Let me know if you like more music sprinkled through the episodes of the My Generation podcast going into 2020, because any comments you leave on this episode will influence what happens on the show going into the brand new year. So if there's things you want to see or want me to do on the show, that will be happening in 2020. So that is it from me. Thank you very much for listening. So many amazing episodes coming up on the My Generation podcast. But to close off, we've got Stella Drone finishing the show for you. It's Red Giant. Thank you very much for listening, and we will tune in next week on the My Generation podcast.